Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Seal of Approval.
Hello there, and welcome back to Seal of Approval, the podcast bringing you weekly judgments on the latest movie news and reviews. I'm Callum, your host, and today I'm joined by my two guests, Charles and Nat.
Hello.
Nat.
Exciting stuff.
Good to have you back on. And to introduce yourself, do you want to tell us one of your top 25 movies of all time and why you think it's so good?
Okay. I didn't think about this. Sheesh, I did it last time, and I spent all day.
Yeah, it's not just me.
What my favorite one of my favorite movies were. I would say The Wizard of Oz is one of my favorites. I am a musical fiend, and so I really love Judy Garland, and I really think I really enjoy it. I love it. The characters are so cool. They're so cute. The book was awesome, and so they had to do the movie well. And they also ended up adding songs, which, just pulls in my heartstrings a little bit. So, yeah, The Wizard of Oz. Also, I really like that they go from black and white to color. I just think that's really clever. And then, yeah, that's me.
I agree. I like Wizard of Oz. It definitely, there's still parts that creeped me out as a kid. I think rewatching it, I go, I think I was fair enough to be creeped out by. The original material is quite dark, isn't it? So but yeah,
the original witch just what fueled my nightmares for all of my childhood.
Well, me and Charles are actually working on a cyberpunk version of The Wizard of Oz, so
that's sick.
Keep your ears peeled for that one.
I shall.
So lots of LEDs. All right, so same goes for you, Charles. Do you want to give us another film of yours that you actually like and tell us why?
That's such a hard bar to crossover. I'm going to go... I'm kind of torn between something, a cartoon or an older movie. So I might go Drunken Master with Jackie Chan.
Ooh.
Bring it back
and
to
that
stunts.
Wasn't the one I planned on saying when I started the sentence, but it's when it came out. But I love my old Asian with Chinese kung fu.
Let the truth flow through you, Charles.
Yep.
I haven't seen it, but it is on my list.
Oh, Jackie Chan's early stuff is great. And I'm a big fan of a good training montage in my kung fu films. And this one does have a good one. And the training techniques are just great. And the action and the skill it takes to do the things he does is just phenomenal. And it's real stunts. It's not all like 1,000 cuts. It's something that we've criticized here on previously on the other episodes is over editing, where there's very little editing done in old Chinese cinema. And they let the action speak for itself, and I love it.
Oh, I
agree.
Love it.
And as for myself, this week I'm going to add I Lost My Body, which is a French animated film that I watched just this past week, and its editing, plot, and soundtrack are just fantastic. So I'm not going to say any more about it because I don't actually want to spoil any of it, so I won't talk about plot or anything, but it's on Netflix and has a pretty good English dub, so it's worth checking out. So there you go. I Lost My Body. Okay, now that we've let everyone judge our taste, let's move on to the all-important points. We start, as you would imagine, with round one.
Movie news highlights of the week.
In this round, I offer up clues to each of my guests, and they gain a point if they correctly guess which movie news item it refers to. Let's start with Nat. Nat, your first clue. Which production has experienced a veritable storm of leaked photos?
Ooh.
Too slow,
what is it? What was it called? No.
I know it.
Thor, right? Love and Thunder.
Boom. Yes, quite right.
That was my storm.
That was your storm noise, okay. Well, to be honest, that probably sounds like a Taika Waititi storm noise, so...
I will take that as a compliment.
We'll let it slide. Yes, no, you're quite right. Thor: Love and Thunder is currently in production in Australia, just over the ditch, and has had a large series of set photos leak out, giving fans a sneak peek at the various costumes and confirming the appearance of certain actors. Bonus points if either of you can tell me which actors/characters have been spotted.
Natalie Portman.
Oh, isn't... Oh, well, Chris Hemsworth. Just kidding. That's a bit brutal. Wasn't Melissa McCarthy going to be like Hela, or was that just a joke? Because I did see her and her husband like make a video addressing Taika Waititi and asking to be in the film.
Yeah, well, that they manifested it and it came true.
Oh,
Yeah.
I should try that.
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy is going to be playing Hela, or the fake version of Hela. So as in from Thor Ragnarok, the villain. She's going to be playing a parody version of that character.
That's so fun. That's so stupid and so fun. I love it.
It's the same series. How is it a parody of its own character?
Well, so
Didn't they do that in one of the other Thors where it was like a play?
Yeah.
That Loki put on.
Oh, yeah.
Are they going to do the same vibe?
Yes. In fact, all of those characters are returning. So that's Luke Hemsworth returning as Thor, Matt Damon as Loki, Sam Neill as Odin, and yes, you're right, Melissa McCarthy now as Hela.
This just seems like an excuse to pay their friends.
I mean, I would.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to pay their friends? If I'm going to pay anybody, it's going to be people that I enjoy the presence of.
That's true. I personally enjoy not paying my friends.
I know.
That's why. That's why I use Charles for slave labor on all of my films. So.
That's why I have no friends, because I can't afford to pay them.
Oh, rip! Wow.
I got too real. Let's move forward.
Wow, that really hits home there. Do you need to sit on the couch for a little bit, Nat?
Yeah, I might need a break. I'm going to take a tenner, team.
Break that down. Yeah, so there's been quite a few directors who have done that. J.J. Abrams always brings back his motley crew. There's always cameos from the lost people.
To be honest, I don't mind that as much. Like, you working with people, I get it. Like, I agree with Nat's points. Like, you're going to work with people you like. But it more feels like they're just bringing people back from previous movies because, and it doesn't seem to make sense. And that's what I mean. It's weird. Like, she's playing a parody of herself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Wait, Melissa McCarthy isn't playing a parody of herself, right? She's playing a parody of
One of the other characters.
Kate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lady. Scary woman.
Kate Blanchett, yes.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
There we go.
So, I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of Melissa McCarthy. I don't find it very funny. But I think the play was funny in Thor Ragnarok. To be fair, I'm a little bit worried that Taika is going to go a bit too far with the comedy and
it's 100%
zaniness, you know.
I'm not worried. It's a fact.
But that's what you expect. Yeah. Just accept it now, bruv.
I don't know. Like, I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. I'm assuming you did, Nat. And
Oh, heck,
I can't remember
freaking
how
loved
you
it.
feel about it, Charles.
It was a movie. Yeah. What's that saying? Like,
It's just kind of like my humor, I guess.
Yeah, it was too overdone.
Yeah, sounds about right. That sounds like me.
It just doesn't fit the rest of the series, and since it is part of our series, having that tone, I think we've talked about this before, like that leading straight into Endgame or whatever it was.
Infinity
Wars,
yeah.
that's the one. Like, just like it doesn't work. Like, it's the direct prequel to it.
I think it was like a bit jarring, yeah, because of the styles being so different. But it brought something interesting to the table. Like, it wasn't just another superhero film, which I really appreciated. And I mean, hearing a Kiwi accent in any movie is hilarious, especially alongside
so
like Thor. It's comedy gold, and I really liked it. I really liked it, guys. I'm a fan.
It was, the New Zealand accent was voted the world's sexiest accent like last year. So
Exactly, especially coming from a pile of rocks, man.
Well, world's sexiest man, Korg. Yeah, I
it's on the
agree.
M2 magazine.
So I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. I'm not, like I say, I'm not as a bigger fan of the fact that it's part of the MCU, and I guess that is the issue with having a connected cinematic universe, is that it's hard to mesh all of those tones. I don't think Infinity War did a pretty good job of that, but I don't know. I almost wish we would just had a Thor universe and that's all we dealt with, because then you could, I'd be happy with just having zany Thor movies as long as they didn't have to also tie into the serious world, because
the drama that is the rest of it. Yeah.
So if you've got Thor getting punched up for lols, and then you go to a movie where you need to feel stakes over people being in danger, it's hard to kind of justify when you've got, you were an invincible elastic bouncy ball in the last movie, and now we're expected to believe that you are in danger. Yeah, I don't know. So that's that's how I feel.
And then I don't like what they did with Thor. Like, it was funny seeing fat Thor, but the reality is it was stupid. Like, it just completely undermines his power and his abilities, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I see it. I think it was a fun. I just think it was fun. I think it was cool how they once again broke out of the mold of superhero movies, and by having Fat Thor breaking the mold of superheroes in general, and kind of weaving it in and out of this like little comedy circle that Taika has made. Like, he was still consistently the same Thor that we saw in Ragnarok, in Endgame and Infinity Thor, because he was a junky boy. I think it was cleverly done and a good way to open a door to a different style of film for the MCU, which I like. I personally, just because I love Taika, I may just be biased, but I think it's cool to see that kind of overlap in the movie world.
Yeah,
in the MCU world.
It's a Thor, or Taika's version of Thor, is a good pairing with Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm interested in seeing how it goes. Like I say, I don't know. I feel like, especially here in New Zealand, where so many people try to replicate Taika's sort of zany humor, but they miss the nuance of it all, or they just don't have the skill. And I think maybe that's why I feel kind of oversaturated with that kind of humor. Even though I really enjoy, like, I love Hunt for the Wilder People. I love Boy. I really enjoy his movies, but it's almost like an oversaturation. And I guess maybe that's just coming from somebody who works in film in New Zealand and sees all of these attempts at copying his style. And so I admit that that's maybe more a problem with with my experience with it all, rather than the general.
Yeah, and we know by now. I just like a good funny, so it's easy to get my approval on things. It's just slip a fart joke in there anywhere, and I'm good to go. I'm like a toddler.
Easy, please. I think I've said this to you before, Callum, in person, that my biggest frustration with it is that seems to be the only media that we tend to export, whereas as New Zealand, we have a lot more to offer. But other than Lord of the Rings, it's this kind of silly humour. But it's not all our humor. Like, it's just a portion of New Zealand, or a part of us, and that's my frustration. It's the only thing that seems to get picked up, and the world's like, oh, it's so funny. Look how dumb the Kiwis are. It's like, no, it's not really, because it's the same humor as Flight of the Conchords and all that. And I just, it rubs me the wrong way. Like, I get asked to quote Korg, oh, you sound like Korg. I'm like, no, I don't. I really don't. I know a lot of people who do, but I don't. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, to the rest of the world, you are
Korg.
You are Korg. I'm just picturing the Endgame snap, but instead it's Charles's face and he's saying, "And I am Cork.
You got to get working on that. You need to make it as a little short to post on the Instagram there.
Yeah.
You've got to work on our TikToks here, Callum.
Let's go.
I actually don't know how to make TikToks. To be honest, I know it's a thing, but I'm too old.
Yeah, I did. Enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. So I no doubt I will enjoy Thor: Love and Thunder and enjoy it. I am nervous about how far it's going to go, but it makes me more nervous for what he's planning for Star Wars. Because he did say in an interview that he was getting ready to destroy Star Wars or something like that. Anyway,
it's just going to be 2 hours of him making jokes about how stormtroopers can't aim. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And I can't wait.
Nat. Like, it's fine for memes, but I'm a fan of the universe and the more serious aspect of that world. I don't know. I would prefer it to remain a similar sort of tone. It's like if you did Lord of the Rings, but turn it into, some kind of budget comedy. I don't know. In my opinion, leave it alone. Do Masters of the Universe.
Yep.
Do something else that's more
camp and silly.
Yeah. But that's just me. I did see a quote, though, so there you go. I'll read this, leave you guys with this. It says, if you liked Ragnarok, Taika promised this will be that movie on steroids. Brighter, louder, bigger, funnier, more action, magical goats, and space whales. So
I love him.
That's I was going to say, that kind of describes Nat's taste in a sentence, doesn't it? So,
Space whales.
Yeah,
it's a spirit animal.
It just sounds like me trying to describe the plot of a movie. There we go. No, it's quite exciting. I'm ready for it.
Oh,
it's not the hero we need. It's the hero we deserve.
Yeah. And that Natalie really, really wants.
Okay, moving on. Now I have a clue for Charles.
I have an answer for you.
Charles. Wow, so confident.
No, don't even give him the question. Just say your answer right now. Drop it.
Jumanji.
No.
Quickly changes the question because he got it right.
Which means I passed the question to Nat because Charles got it wrong. So, Charles, which production has rolled out their critical cast announcements?
Oh, I did remember reading something about that. The D&D movie.
Yes, you are spot on.
All right.
I've got to say, I read stuff about that, and they were like, "Oh, look at our star-studded movie lineup," and I'm like, I recognize one guy from it. It's not that star-studded. It's kind of average. The Pikachu guy's pretty good. I like him.
I think they got really excited because that guy from Bridgerton is on it now. Reggae.
I don't remember anybody's name.
Yeah, he got named in it, and since he's got all this hype around him because of the Netflix show Bridgerton, quite spicy, do not recommend with parents in the room. He got cast in it, and so the whole world is kind of pooping their pants out of excitement.
It's all about the it guy, I have to say, I'm getting so sick of seeing Tom Holland, Jared Leto, and Zack Snyder's names in the news.
I know almost nothing about movies, and I have heard those three names so often anytime I open up a social media page that I also am sick of it.
It is just them. I honestly, I don't get it. It's like they have a monopoly on the news outlets. It's crazy.
The movie industry does that all the time. They get someone who's popular. Like Natalie Portman was it for a while. She did every movie with that needed.
I thought you were just going to end at Natalie, and you're like, Natalie was real popular for a minute. And I was like, thank you, Charles.
She was the go-to A-lister actor for Hollywood.
I am also in the D&D cast. Surprise!
Oh, now it's definitely star-studded.
Hey.
Which character are you playing, Nat? Come on, breaking news.
That is confidential information, Callum.
Yeah, I actually don't know much about it, but to be honest, I'm not expecting a whole lot from this movie. We'll see.
Yeah. The rest of the cast. So, well, among the people that we already mentioned, there is also Chris Pine, Hugh Grant, and Michelle Rodriguez.
Oh,
So
I did
there's
like
like
Oh,
a-
I
Hugh
know
Grant.
those three.
I do like Hugh Grant as the villain. That seems pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Chris Pine is he's a good actor.
My favorite, Chris.
Chris Prine. Kiss Prine, as he's commonly known to his friends.
Of which
I don't know if I've
one.
mentioned this before, but yeah, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but Chris Prine. Oh my goodness, I keep doing it. Kiss Prine, like I say, as is known by his mates, he actually dated my English teacher, my high school English teacher.
Oh, yeah, I remember you
Holy
telling me that.
wow.
Yeah, because he taught he studied in the UK, But my English teacher was very tight-lipped over that relationship. I guess because either she was lying, or she was a little bit. I get the impression that she was a little bit embarrassed by it. But anyway,
Was that your news to tell, Callum?
Yeah, you just outed her in front of the world. What if someone in your English class didn't know?
well,
And now they're going to go hound her about it.
What if Chris Pine didn't know and he listens?
which he will because he's my mate. But best buds.
Well,
you
you're
know.
on kissing terms,
Him and
aren't you?
Kiss
So,
Prine.
I should hope so.
Prime time, as I like to call it. I am ashamed of myself. But
You're not. You're not. You love it.
I don't, to be
try
honest,
edit that out.
nope,
Nah,
that's staying
you
in.
better keep it
Yonde,
in.
it's staying in. I'll be messaging him privately.
Yeah, so
He's probably the worst cast. I'm like, not into it. He needs to open his eyes. He squints too much.
he's I was very confused about where you're going there. He needs to open his mind. He's so narrow-minded. He just
No, his eyes.
but open his eyes literally. More.
He's always squinting.
I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't a massive fan of him as James Kirk in the Star Trek movies. He wasn't terrible, but I didn't necessarily like the character that they'd set out for him, just him trying to be cocky. But I actually, even though I'm not a massive fan of the Wonder Woman movies, in fact, the latest one was awful, but his acting in it and his character's enjoyable. For me, is some of the best parts of those movies is Chris Prine. Oh,
You tried so hard to get it right that
I
time.
tried so hard.
Enunciate, and then still got it wrong.
Yeah, okay, so moving on from saying his name
Whose name? Sorry?
to not happening. What's your experience with D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, guys? Have you seen any of the old movies? Do you play Dungeons and Dragons?
There was one with Marlon Wayans, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There was one with a Wayans brother, and I remember like watching 5 seconds, and that's it.
Right, yeah.
And I don't remember it. But yeah, experience with the game is almost none. My dad, he likes D&D, and he plays it. He's like a teacher aide at school, and he sometimes plays it with his with his students, which is quite precious. But that's the extent of my knowledge. And that a bunch of my friends play it, and that it's quite a fun little character role play game, right?
Yes.
Charles, do you want to answer
So are
that?
they?
Yes, I do.
So with the movie, are they going to be these predetermined characters, or are they going to be people playing the game?
First of all, I'll give Charles a chance to defend
Go for
you
it, rip it.
insulting his.
So yes, I do. I have played Dungeons and Dragons in the past. Haven't for a long time, but have recently started a game playing with my brother and my son. We're running a campaign at the moment. So yes, I am involved and been a big fan of RPGs in general, video games, which obviously take a lot of inspiration from D&D. I am invested in the fantasy genre, and I have seen the original, like the Dragonlance cartoon, and Dragonlance is based on a series of books, which is based in a world created in the D&D rule set. I can't remember if I've seen the movie or not, though.
So there's been a bunch of movies. They're all really, really bad.
Yeah, like,
So
exactly.
bad. Although there is one, I can't remember which one, but Jeremy Irons is the villain, and he like goes all out, really hams it up. It's amazing. Yeah, so if you search up on YouTube just like the highlights of his acting from the D&D movies, that's worth checking out. I wouldn't recommend actually watching the movie, but like his acting is hilarious. I love it.
You need to specify who that is, though, because I'm bad with names.
Jeremy Irons. Do you remember the awful Aragorn movie?
Yes.
He's the mentor for Aragorn.
I think I might
takes him
know
under
who
his
you mean.
wing. Trying to think what else.
Jeremy Irons, like the metal?
Yes.
Yeah, it's who I was thinking is.
Okay.
He's just much older now.
Yeah.
But the cartoon wasn't terrible, but I was a kid when I saw it, and I liked the characters because I'd read the books. So, yeah, I don't know. It depends what they do with it. Like, are they, as Natalie said, are they going to... I'm assuming it's going to be just the full fantasy, and it's not going to be people rolling dice around the table for 2 hours.
Wouldn't that be fun? It was. They're not even like they never. There are no cutscenes into like a fantasy world at all. It's just like a 2-hour live stream of some kids on Twitch. They just happen to be Chris Pine and Rick H.
I would actually love to see the Snyder cut of that movie where it's just like a super zoomed in. Like slow-mo dice rolling and like with this like really desaturated epic Hans Zimmer soundtrack, just for them literally rolling dice as the camera's like zooming around the circle, panning around,
full
crazy
360.
angles. Yeah.
As it teeters over to the 20-sided side.
Yeah, that's the Snyder cut we want. So there are actually no confirmed
plot or
story at all. So they literally is just the cast announcement, and they're trying to obviously hype that up.
You know what?
Do you think it's a good idea though?
The movie
making a D&D movie? Yeah.
To be honest, the time is right because the nerddom has become the pinnacle of entertainment.
Yeah, the mainstream.
It was always so niche. Like growing up, like none of my friends did any of this stuff. Like I play with my older siblings. Like none of my friends were into video games. None of my friends knew anything about comics. But now it's like all my son's friends know all these things, and like they know like anime, they know cartoons, they know D&D, and like my son wanted to play D&D. Like he was interested in it. I think Stranger Things has brought that back into the mainstream. Everyone's like, oh yeah, that was a thing that the nerds did when I was younger, and now everyone's doing it. So it's a nerd renaissance of such, and so I think it's a good time for it.
Yeah.
And I think the quality of fantasy has stepped up. Like things now look dirty and gritty and grimy, whereas in the past, like you'd get like warriors and they were shining and and they hadn't seen blood or mud. But so I think if it has the quality of like something like The Witcher with a bigger budget, then potentially it could look very cool. But it's all about script and story. Like, is it just going to be real cheesy? Is it going to be committee-driven story or plot that's going to be real derivative and boring?
I guess and you sort of touched on this a little bit, Charles, but unless you include specific elements to how the game is played, is it just a fantasy movie?
Oh, exactly.
Ooh,
whereas that's what I mean. Like, is it actually Dungeons and Dragons, or is it actually just a fantasy movie that gives us a writer free reign to make up whatever they want? Because that is the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons, is that you can make whatever you want. And I mentioned Dragonlance, and that's actually just someone who loved D&D who made a world and wrote novels in that world. But the world, he did play Dungeons and Dragons in that world with his friends. And so for him, it was a real believable space that he could then write novels in.
Yeah.
So are they going to base it on some of these novels written about the lore? I was watching something today about an anime called Goblin Slayer, and it's actually quite heavily inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, like the mythology and the combat and the venturing in it, and it actually touches on it. And what I really like is that actually it's one of the few things that references like especially magic mechanics that Dungeons and Dragons uses, whereas no other fantasy that I can think of ever really. The magic's there. Oh, magic happens. Whereas, yeah, as you say, like, will they abide by the rules of the role-playing game in the fantasy setting? Probably not, is my guess. It'll be a loose touch.
But surely, like, as a person who is completely fresh and brand new to the world, like, it sounds like that would be a really cool plot point to include, is those little bits that only the people who play will know, that, you know, the rules that apply to the game would surely make a more interesting movie than just another knight slaying things with magic, you know? So, like, hopefully that's what they do. I'm keen to see it as a complete noob with fresh eyes. That sounds a lot more interesting to me than another run-of-the-mill wonky magic situation.
And they could go too far because, like, D&D, like the combat, everything's done in a 5 feet grid, basically. So, like, it'd be really weird if it's like, oh, I can't attack that person because he's 10 feet away from me. That'd be really dumb. But
they're like, hang on, get out the rulers.
I can only move 25 feet.
I think Hugh Grant was...
Hugh Grant's too far away. Oh, no.
Hugh Grant used disengage. Oh, no. But specifically what Goblin Slayer, the cartoon I mentioned before, what they do is they refer to the magic restrictions in D&D. Magic, you learn and you have to prepare spells as a wizard, and you only have those certain spells, and you have only so many casts per day. So you may have 3 casts of a level 2 spell, and you can only cast 3 spells at level 2 spells. And Goblin Slayer actually refers to it, like the main character says to the cleric, like, how many spells have you got? And she was like, I only have 1 cast left. And so it's a part of the discussion. And he goes, okay, I now know what you can do in a sticky situation. So I'd like to see those more technical but world-building elements still in the D&D, rather than just glossing over it and saying, hey, look, magic exists. I do fireballs.
Pew, pew.
Like, I don't want it to be Star Wars, but with fireballs. But they can go too far.
Yeah, and that would be interesting, though, because then it's almost like pre-established rules for your magic, and that's great. The more kind of rules you have for your universe and the way magic works and everything, the easier it is for your audience to understand the stakes involved, and when something is going wrong, or you're like, oh my goodness, they just used their last cast, that means that they are in danger now, you know.
Exactly, and it gives reason, instead of just like solving an issue because plot needs to be solved, like in-game time travel, like like, I don't like that. I like when things actually are explained and there is a reason for it, and as you say, there is now stakes because they don't have an infinite ability.
Yeah, well, we will have to wait and see. But I'm going to leave you with a little quote, because you talking about Goblin Slayer reminded me of the great Terry Pratchett. And
he's good.
He said, racism was not a problem on the Discworld, because what with trolls and dwarves and so on, speciesism was more interesting. Black and white lived in perfect harmony and ganged up on green. So, Terry Pratchett there too.
A social commentary.
Well, like, before we move on, then I'll tell you that the character that I'm playing is a dwarf cleric in our campaign at the moment, and my son's character is a wizard goblin. So
there you go.
Dwarves can get along with goblins.
Oh,
yeah, and we'll get back to you, to our audience out there. We never fear. We will at some point wheedle out which character Nat is going to be playing in the upcoming D&D movie.
Yes,
and we will.
You'll get there eventually.
We will announce it here for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So stay tuned for.
Well, I just hope they don't do it as like oh look, I got teleported into the D&D world, parallel universe.
Oh darn!
From the
You've
modern
just
world.
revealed my character. How could you?
Scientist A who sets up a portal.
Yes, that is one of my least favourite tropes. Anyway, moving on. I'll open this next clue up to either of you. So the first person to jump in with the right answer gets the point. Fingers on buzzers.
Can we actually make buzzer noises?
If you want to. I've got to say, I've got to then decide who's. I mean, Nat, you can use your chicken if you want.
Just not too close to the mic.
Just not too
Just
close
on the
to
other
mic.
side of the room.
Okay.
Very distant. Nah, we won't. Okay. Continue.
Okay, so here goes. Which movie has gotten into a jam with the internet over an updated animation
Space
style?
Jam!
Space Jam. I that was my buzzer. You should be the buzzer.
I said no. I said never mind.
I think Nat got in there just, I'm afraid.
Because I roofed. I thought we had needed to do a buzzer.
I set him up. Flawless plan.
Yes, thank you for the cosmic
I could
chicken.
see the wavelengths on the discussion, and I did make noise first.
No way. Oh, yeah, fine.
No, just kidding. You win. Well done.
Well,
Now it feels like
Yeah.
it feels like a pity win.
Good. That was my plan.
There's no power in it. But yes, Space Jam, LeBron James, heckin' yes, bring it on.
Could
Yeah.
not care less.
how did I know that was going to be your answer, Charles? So this is the news that we've received the first look at Space Jam: A New Legacy, starring successful NBA player LeBron James, and it has sparked some controversy about their decision to switch cartoons for 3D animation and also for tweaking one of the characters' appearance. So yes.
And cutting out.
Sorry, was that going to be one of the
Quite right,
questions?
Nat.
Le Pew guy.
Yes, yeah, that is a more recent development,
Oh.
fresh off the press today, as of recording. So how do you feel about? First of all, have you seen the two Lolas by comparison,
Yeah. As
Not
a
care less.
side by side?
as a basketball fan and also a Looney Tunes fan, Space Jam 1 was like the greatest thing of all time. And I loved seeing, the 2D little flat figures up against the real world. It was super interesting and cool to see as a kid, especially because you're like, oh, those are my favorite cartoon characters just jumping around with Michael Jordan. Like, what? Like, who thinks of that? I love it. I don't know how I feel about the 3D animation. It kind of takes away from that in my brain. And also the Lola
I think
situation.
it's a little
So basically,
too self-aware.
yeah. It's like now they're trying to be something that they're not. They're 2D characters. They are cartoons. And now when you bring them into 3D, have we got a 3D-ish Looney Tune before that? Have they just changed animation styles and I didn't know?
Yeah, no. So
Disney stopped making cartoons.
that's new for this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dumb. I don't like that.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the internet caring about a bunny cartoon.
Yeah.
I think that's just a situation, a PG situation.
Yes. So, well, let me read you a quote from, I can't remember if this is one of the directors or the producers, but it says that Lola Bunny was very sexualized, like Betty Boop mixed with Jessica Rabbit. Lola was not politically correct. This is a kid's movie. Why is she in a crop top? It just felt unnecessary. But at the same time, there's a long history of that in cartoons. This is 2021. It's important to reflect the authenticity of strong, capable female characters. We've reworked a lot of things, like making sure she had appropriate length on her shorts and was feminine without being objectified. Now, I'm interested as the female perspective now.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen the two side by side.
Yes.
Do you feel like the updated version is a strong, capable female character just based on what they've done to her appearance?
I mean, they both are. You can have. I don't like how they're like, oh, that she needs to have respectable length shorts and why is she in a crop top? It's because then it's kind of taking away from those women who do feel empowered when they wear those things, it's a big push and pull. I was thinking about it and talking about it with a friend at work today and how, yes, it's like a cartoon and she was initially, supposed to be a kid's situation and maybe it wasn't politically correct how they sexualized her, which is actually what happened. And, okay, but first of all, it's a cartoon. like people shouldn't be shouldn't be seeing it like that. And also she's a bunny, so they definitely shouldn't be seeing her like that. But it happened.
Don't be weird.
Don't judge.
Don't judge the furries.
This is a safe space, but it shouldn't happen. But, like, when they say she needs to be a powerful, strong, feminine model, or like a role model for kids, it's like someone in a crop top can still be that feminist icon. Like, it shouldn't take away the message that they're trying to give if they just put her in modest clothing or make her like, that I don't agree with. That's what they were trying to do. What they were really trying to do is make it, everybody
safe for kids.
Yeah. Well, not even that. Like, the kids, maybe some little boys had their first crush was Lola Bunny. Big whoop. One of my first crushes was Robin Hood. Like, it happens. But
the real Robin Hood or the Fox Robin Hood?
The Fox Robin Hood.
Nice.
No, Robin Hood Men in Tights.
the best Robin Hood movie.
No, but they so when they're saying, "Oh, we're doing it so that it's a good example for children, for the little girls who are watching, and so that they're not, showing off their bodies all the time," it's like, that's not what they did it for. They did it to please parents. They didn't do it to be a role model for girls, because if they did, they wouldn't care what she was wearing as long as she was acting civil. Like, they can definitely change the way that Lola Bunny interacts with other characters, because she was a bit of a floozy in the first one. So they can change that about it. They don't have to change the look so that she's more covered up to be a good role model for kids.
Yeah, I think one of the other things as well that seems quite insulting is that to have her be a strong and capable female character, she has to, her body type has to change. So instead of being, the more stereotypically attractive, they have to make her more dumpy. you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
but that is a kind of
feed.
That is kind of a trend in video games at the moment, or some of the more quote unquote woke video games. I'm sure you've noticed this, Charles, is where they're kind of almost de-feminizing some female characters because they can't be too conventionally attractive, because then that's not, that doesn't fit with.
It's not. It's the pendulum swinging too far. Like, because there are definitely characters in video games that are way too far the wrong way, and then swinging. It swings back too far, and then you get. And are they female characters now? They're just basically a dude now, or
homogenous.
That's a man.
And so it doesn't need to be sexualized, but it doesn't. But by desexualizing, it almost it draws attention to the sexualization of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, or even if they made the change without making that statement, like, oh, it's a big feminist movement, then it would be more accurate in its representation, or the message that they're trying to share, which is like, everybody type is good, is fine, is normal.
Exactly.
Like, if that's what they're trying to do, stop saying that that's the point you're trying to make.
Exactly. Stop saying, look at me, how good I am, I'm being clever. But I agree, it should just be, you create a character because you want to create that character, whoever or it is, or whatever it is, and it's using a creative, not creating a character to fit an agenda or a movement or anything like that. Like,
to be woke.
It's art. Yeah. It's art. It's art. You should be able to create what you want to create.
Yeah, no, agreed. So, the real controversy here, though, is should LeBron really be compared to Michael Jordan? But anyway. Or
really
Tom Brady.
Or Tom Brady. Or Tom Brady.
Yeah. or does Looney Tunes really have a place in pop culture today? That's a discussion for another time, I think. I'll let that sit with you guys. And with that, we're on to round 2.
Mostly rotten.
In this round, my guests have to guess the Rotten Tomato scores for various movies. The closest guess wins the points. And today we're going to have a look at some of Neil Blomkamp's movies, which may or may not be a spoiler for one of the upcoming points that we're going to discuss. So that's District 9, Elysium, and Chappie. And so would either of you like to volunteer to go first?
I've seen one out of 3. So Charles can go first.
Okay.
Your guesses will be
Charles.
as good as mine.
Charles, would you like to give us the critic score for District 9? Give us your best guess.
I'm going to say 93.
93. And for you, Nat?
I'm going to say 84.
84. Well, Charles has actually taken that point. It's 90%.
Oh, dumb.
Boom. You just needed to go 92 and you would have won.
I should have done it. Okay.
Don't listen to Charles, okay? Make an educated guess, okay? Just
It's all about tactics.
Okay, so in that case, Nat, would you like to give us the audience score? How do you think audience perceived this movie? Better or worse than the critics?
I'm going to say 92. They perceived it exactly the same as the critics did. Crickets? Crickets?
Crickets. Oh, wow.
Critics.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 93 again.
93. Well, in that case, Nat, you get the point there. The audience actually gave it 82%.
I don't believe that.
Oh.
Some angry Karen didn't like the swear words.
It was me. I also complained about Lola Bunny.
She was upset with them being racist to prawns. Yeah, okay. So moving on to the next movie. So District 9, that's 2009. And then 4 years later, in 2013, he followed it up with Elysium. So with starring Matt Damon. So, Nat, do you want to guess the critic score?
Matt Damon.
I can't hear his name and not think of it. It was from an interview that he was in. No, it was Natalie Portman, was it? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Oh, another story for another day. Continue.
Okay, this is the one that I've seen, and is the glowy ring in space, and there's bald Matt Damon, and he is Jay Chillin. I think. Wait, am I doing the critics?
Yes.
I think they hated it. So I'm going to go with a low score of 62. 62%.
62. Okay. And for you, Charles?
61.
61. Well, Nat, you were even closer with 64. It's 65%.
I was going to do 63, but I second guessed myself. Dang it. Dang it.
I'll take it.
Close.
I'll take the point.
Well, Nat, seeing as you have actually seen this movie, do you want to also give us the audience score?
Okay. I don't remember it that great. So I'm going to say most other people also didn't find it too memorable and thus rated it lower than the critics by 13%. So I just set myself up to not know how to do math. So
49.
49 seems a bit low. So I'm going to go with...
No. So Charles, 65 minus 13.
Oh, yes, my bad. 23. 59. No, what?
Says the accountant over here.
She said 62 minus 13.
65 was the critics' score. Minus 13 is 52.
Yes.
So I'm going to go with 52.
Yeah, I was going off her number, 62. That's what I was doing.
Sure you were, Charles. Sure you were.
Okay, Charles, do you want to redeem yourself by giving us the audience score?
66.
In the form of a maths equation?
No, 66.
66.
My numbers were right
well,
based on what Natalie had said.
You have no proof.
Well, I'm afraid this one also goes to Nat because it is 58%.
Whoa! She's so good at numbers. Wow!
Yeah, 58%. So the audience thought even less of Elysium than the critics did.
But more than I thought they did. So, go audience. Well done. Gold star.
Yeah. So, Charles, you want to give us the critic scores for Chappie? So, Chappie, 2 years later, 2015, about a robot that's raised by gangsters.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
A robot.
So I'm going to say critics liked it just because I feel like saying that. So I'm going to say 87. A
87.
complete stab in the dark because I have no idea if it was any good or not.
A robot
And,
raised by gangsters. Sorry, I spoke over you again. Do it. Go.
I was just going to ask for your score, Nat.
I feel so bad. Okay, my score. So a robot raised by gangsters. Chappie, that's the dog robot, right? Right?
No.
No? It's not?
No, it's a humanoid robot.
That's Benji 2.0.
Okay. Wow. All right. So I think they loved it. I'm going to go with a solid 90%. Just a clean 90. That sounds great. It's maybe because I've got the visual of the robot dog in my brain, which I now know is completely wrong, but I'm still going to go with the 90.
Yeah, well, both of you are completely off. And because... and
I'm still closer.
To be fair, because both of you didn't really... I mean, I think this movie kind of went a little bit under the radar, which is probably why you guys haven't really heard of it and why you thought it was a robot dog. But the critics actually gave it 32%.
Oh.
I still win, Callum.
He still wins.
It's the rules.
Yes, you do win by default, Charles, yes.
I will take it.
Wow.
So with that in mind, guys, Nat, would you like to give us the audience score
Okay.
for Chappie?
Oh. Well, I really hope they liked it better than the critics did. 37. 37%.
37.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, Charles?
40.
40. Well, it's actually 56%.
All win again.
Gosh. I was so good at this last time.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it helps when you've seen the movie.
Blinded by the robot dog that I've created in my mind. It's just such a great film. I can't wait for you guys to see it. I'm gonna make it.
Yeah.
After the D&D one, it's gonna be me and this little robot dog.
That's actually the character that Nat's playing in D&D. It's a robot dog. Okay, so now for the final round, and we're back to
Movie news highlights of the week.
and we'll start this round with Charles. Who's ready to rock and roll with another sequel?
Jumanji.
Jumanji is ready.
Yep.
Oh,
Spot on.
You mock me? Yeah, I'm right.
Oh, dang it.
You're like,
spoke too soon, Nat. So,
you can't blame that one.
No, because I thought you were asking like who, like the person, and I was like, Jumanji is not a person, you Wally.
Molly is my middle name.
Really?
But I was right. No, it's not.
Oh.
But I was right.
Hiram Garcia, head producer at Seven Books Productions, has said that talks are 100% happening about Jumanji 4, following on from the last two soft reboot sequels, which feature Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Kevin Hart, Karen Gillan, and Jack Black.
Is it technically a sequel when it's number 4 in a series?
That's what I was going to say. Also, the numbering confuses me because I didn't realize that the new Jumanji was technically Jumanji 2. I thought they were just kind of, it was a separate thing. Is it actually like a sequel to the Robin Williams one?
Yeah, same
it's
universe.
in the same universe, same continuity.
I haven't seen them yet, but I did know they were.
I assume you've seen the original, though.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I loved that movie as a kid. I totally terrified by a lot of it, but still loved it.
Definitely.
There are some scenes that definitely haunted my dreams for a while. Being trapped in the floor with giant spiders, and then just the idea of a kid being sucked into a game and like
being stuck there for 30
losing
years.
his life. Just and actually the crocodile always used to terrify me. The practical effects are so great that especially as a child. They were so believable, you know.
I saw it actually recently, and even the CG for its time wasn't terrible.
Yeah, well, except from the monkeys.
But again, based when it was made,
For its time, yeah.
it's actually not bad. Yeah, I was going to say this earlier when they're talking about the D&D movie. Movie studios need to stop talking about movies 4 years before they're even made.
Yeah, just chill, bruv.
Yeah, or just they should just shut up and make the movies, and they would be out a day sooner. Like instead of spending a day writing a press release about nothing.
wasn't the actual what you just said, Callum? Wasn't it? Talks are 100% happening. People are 100% talking, and it's like that's just stating a fact. That's just a more complicated way of saying, yeah, people are talking about it.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, well,
it does not give any
happen.
more confirmation about whether or not it's actually going to happen. But people are getting all excited about it. They're like, "Oh, they're 100% talking about it. We're 100% talking about it right now." Doesn't mean we're making the movie.
Well,
they're talking about the millions of dollars they can make from just sticking the exact same movie on the screen.
Well, I assume that obviously, well, one, the news outlets need something to report on, right? To keep themselves going, especially when you're dedicated entirely to movie news. But I'm sure that they do kind of test out things. There's definitely, which kind of annoys me when they talk about leaks and rumors, because it's like, well, they're actually it's the studios, their marketing teams paying news outlets to put these articles out so that they can sort of gauge,
the fake
interaction leak. or reaction to fake leaks. I'm convinced that 80% of the news is just fake leaks from directly from the studios.
Fake news.
It's the classic one. I haven't heard of it much recently, but like when Apple phones were reasonably new, like the first few models, like a few weeks before like the press conference, magically one of the new models would be left at a bar somewhere, or and then it used to happen. They'd be like, "Oh, the new iPhone 3 was found at this restaurant or so and so, and so it's in the wild." And it feels completely on purpose because it creates buzz, and more people then tune in to see if it is actually a real iPhone that someone did find. And it's the same with
which
movies.
Is funny because I would much rather a studio just said, "Hey guys, do you want this movie?"
Yeah, do a Twitter poll, man. It's simple. Like it's a free service.
Yeah. Or pictures your ideas. I mean, crowdsourcing movies isn't necessarily the best idea because what you really want is filmmakers that have passion about a story and want to tell it, and they're trying to create art, basically. However, when it comes to big blockbuster movies, it doesn't really happen. It's studio execs constructing the best way to make money. So
it's an algorithm.
So from that perspective, why not crowdsource it? But yeah. So Nat, have you seen any of the recent Jumanji movies?
Yes, I enjoyed the first one because I'm a sucker for Jack Black. Because as we've discussed, I have the comedy taste of a 4-year-old. Which is great. It's great. We love it. And also, like, Kevin Hart and The Rock. They're just a match made in heaven. I don't know what I don't know why they had been apart for so long, but whoever brought them together, whenever they did a service to the rest of the world, because the banter that comes out of those two is just too good, like on and off screen. Like just watching them,
great chemistry.
Yeah, it's so good, and seeing them kind of thrive in that little world. And also, so in the second one, basically they all switch characters, and spoiler, crazy. But so they get to kind of try and play these different characters, which I think is really cool for the actors and also really cool for the viewer. Like you get to see them take on this whole new persona, even though I don't necessarily like the second one. I think it was a bit tedious and I fell asleep, but I once again, my funny bone kind of kept me alive through that one, just seeing the constant back and forth between those two, and then Jack Black's thrown in the mix, and also what's her name, Karen Nebula
Gillan.
Karen Gillan. She's cool too. I really like her. And her accent is great. I'm a fan. But I say the first new one I rate. I like. Second one kind of fell a bit flat, but is still good in its own right. And the third one is bound to be good if they keep the same cast, which is the big will they, won't they situation, right? Like everybody's pretty certain they're 100% talking about how they should keep the same cast. But there's still that, what if not everybody wants to be involved in a third, which I think would be quite interesting if they tried to recast everyone.
Speaking of D&D fans, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a big fan of D&D, but
I love him.
He's producer, doesn't he? He's the big producer.
I'm sure he is, just based on how he's presented in the movies.
Yeah, I mean, but if you've got The Rock, aren't you going to make him play The Rock? Aren't you going to be like, look at this Goliath of a man? I know I would. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah,
we just discovered your second crush.
Yeah, from an animated Fox to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yep, and any female that is listening is like, yep, this girl's got taste. 100% agree.
Is it a fox and a rock? Yeah, there's
Foxy Rock.
And Korg. Don't forget Korg. It's a mixture of both.
Stuck between a fox and a rock place. Yeah, again, I'm embarrassed for myself. I'm sorry I did that. Okay. So, but yeah, so we'll see how the next one turns out. Do we need it? Probably not. Will it make money? Yeah. So that means it's happening.
They're 100% talking about it happening, Callum.
They're talking about the bags of cash they're going to take to the bank.
Yeah,
100%.
I believe it. I believe it 100%. Okay, now I have a clue for Nat.
Ooh.
So Nat, which director is promising that prawns are back on the menu?
Oh, you just said his name before. You just said it. Neil. Blum, 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 blum.
DeGrasse Tyson. That's the other Neil I know.
Dracarys. Neil. Blam.
Charles, do you know his surname?
No, don't give it the Charles.
It's like Blockman or something. Blockman or Blockman.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Neil Blomkamp.
Oh,
close.
I got his first name. What if we're friends and I just call him Neil, okay? Like you call Chris Kiss Prine. I call Neil.
Yeah, it's a pet name.
Blom. Just Neil.
Mm.
Well, District.
Give me the points.
I mean, you get the point, but this is the news that the South African director Neil Blomkamp, we've already talked about his previous resume, has announced that he's in the process of writing the long-awaited sequel to 2009's District 9, and the news outlet is calling it District 10. Who knows if that will actually be the actual title? I'd assume it would be the running title, but that's what everyone's going to refer to it as, I guess.
It could make sense. I'm just trying to think if that does make sense, because District 9 is literally the district they are in. Like, they're assigned the prawn camp or the alien camp of the aliens who landed in Johannesburg. But they were in the process of shifting them, if I remember correctly. They were giving them a new home, and so the new home could be referred to as District 10, which would then fit.
Yeah.
Or they could just call it District 9 2, spelled TOO.
It's not a Final Fantasy game. They can't do.
It's District 9 as well.
They can't do sequels of numbered games.
Oh.
So obviously, Nat, as you haven't seen this movie, Charles, would you like to explain prawns?
I will after I give this great name title. They should call it. They should just call it District 9 Remake, like they did with Final Fantasy 7 Remake. So the remake applies to the remaking of their home. There you go.
Anyway,
Nice.
Everybody will think it's just a complete reboot of the first movie.
Was Final Fantasy 7 a reboot, or was it a remake? They're remaking the game, or they're remaking the story. Anyway, I like Final Fantasy Remake. It's about basically aliens turn up on Earth, out like above Johannesburg, and they we want to settle. We can't go home. basically, is the premise. And a few years pass, and so there's delegations who like communicate with an agency set up to deal with the aliens that are in district, and it's basically a shanty town. It's terrible. There's gang warfare inside there. They're treated really badly. It's nasty. And the movie follows, he works for the agency, has to deal with them, and he's serving eviction notices, I believe. And it follows it's done very documentary style at first, or parts of the movie are, as he's documenting himself going through and evicting aliens, or telling them they have to move on. I don't know if I want to say what actually happens, the big plot twist.
I know, yeah. I would write it in because it's definitely worth watching. And to be fair, the ending does leave it very open. Well, no, not even open. It clearly defines a path for at least some plot points of a sequel. Yeah, but
not in the way we've discussed though as well. Though that's the thing. There is two massive different things they could do.
It's very much. It can continue the story. Yeah. But yes, they call them prawns because they look kind of bug/prawn-like.
Yeah, they've got like the exoskeleton. They're just like muscle and flesh inside, and they have armored outside. So they're reasonably hard to kill. So special weapons are developed to combat them if they get aggressive and things like that. So it's got sci-fi elements like body imploding weapons.
Wow, it sounds cool.
Look, it's very realized. Like that's what I liked about it. It had its world setting and it made sense in that world, and the narrative fits, and you could see that happening in a situation like this.
Yeah.
Like it was really well envisioned.
Like human reaction to anything that isn't human, unfortunately.
Well, and unfortunately, how humans treat each other at times.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
The us and them mentality. Yeah. The us and them mentality.
And that's kind of why you'd been telling us previously, Nat, why you weren't a massive fan of Elysium.
Oh, right,
because it was too close to what could be real.
Yeah, and it sounds like a very clever way that he, just made everybody look directly into a mirror, I guess, into humanity, whilst looking at this outside species that isn't supposed to be anything like a human, but we treat humans like we would treat a big prawny alien, and that's a very good conversation. When was this movie made?
2009.
Yeah, 2009. So
cool.
A good while ago. So I'll give you a few background, seeing as I have a bit of insider knowledge on how the movie was made. It was actually most of the design work and all the props were made by Weta Workshop here in New Zealand.
We love them.
That is why they're so good. Now, we were talking about the weapons earlier. Just an interesting little detail for you that nobody necessarily will pick up on, but kind of adds to the world building, is that the weapons in the movie use an orange color, which looks very almost like a high-vis jacket. And they've used the orange and the white because, our construction workers use, you've got your orange cones and your orange high-vis vests. Mm-hmm. And so it was a subtle nod to the idea that these weapons actually on the aliens' home planet are actually just their tools, like mining tools. So they're not weapons to the aliens, but it's a commentary on humanity who take these tools and then try and manipulate them and turn them into and use them as weapons. So
that's way too highbrow.
Yeah, some more kind of another grim outlook on humanity. Neil Blomkamp was actually originally set to direct Microsoft's Halo movie, which would have been a 2-year production in New Zealand. Weta Workshop actually made a whole bunch of weapons, armor, and a fully functioning Warthog vehicle. As in, just like the game, it can go over giant boulders, it will actually drive sideways like a crab, and it can smash down walls. So it's a fully functioning tank, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, 6 months into production and 2 weeks after they finished engineering the Warthog, Microsoft shut down the project. Again, no idea why. That's you can talk to the big rich suits in Hollywood about that. but you can see the warthog in action if you check out the short film Halo Landfall on YouTube. And the only other time they were able to use it was with express permission from the studio. Was when two of the technicians who worked on making the warthog actually ended up getting married, and they used it as their getaway vehicle.
I love that.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Nerds.
The best men. The best nerd. But anyway, after Halo was scrapped, Peter Jackson really liked Neil, and they'd taken on a whole bunch of artists for the project already. So PJ decided to self-fund District 9, which was based on Neil Blomkamp's low-budget short film Alive in Johannesburg. So, yeah.
Was it the same? Was it the actor from the short film? Was the actor that played the movie?
Yes,
that's what I thought. Because he'd never really done anything before that. Like, he was a nobody actor before.
Yeah, again, talking about hooking up your mates.
Yeah, but he did a really good job. Like, he's really good at that character. Like, he looks like he's suffering through that movie, like, in a way that movies don't usually make you believe.
Yeah, what's his name? Shalto Copley? Is that how you say his name?
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, another South African guy. So yeah, he's got a bunch of his mates that he kind of inserts into all of his movies as well. South African blokes.
But yeah, it's the director is probably lucky that he didn't do Halo, because I imagine it would have been very good, the movie. And so it's probably better for his career that he skipped that one.
Yeah, especially with the amount of fans and fan expectation for that movie. It's almost better to go with a completely original story. And especially when you're backed up by Weta Workshop. And I want to point out that District 9 had a fairly low budget. It's $30 million, which for that kind of for sci-fi, that's quite a low budget. But Weta Workshop worked their magic, and Greg Broadmoor is one of their lead concept artists, and his designs are all over the film. And yeah, pretty. It's a great, and it's a grim world, but it's fascinating. So definitely check that out, Nat.
Okay, I will. It's on the list.
Also, he's been doing some really interesting short films. So if you head over to Oates Studios, that's his new banner, as it were, because he's taken a break from blockbuster movies for a good wee while now. So definitely go check those out. Okay, I'll open this next clue up to either of you. So first person to jump in with the right answer gets the point.
Oh.
Which series was almost 2 movies to rule them all?
Lord of the Rings.
I was definitely first that time.
Were you? Were you? I see the way. I see mine are a little bit sooner than yours.
We'll have to do an action replay of that, but I do think Charles got that one.
Oh, it's the leg.
I don't know how this is news, because this was common knowledge when the movies were being filmed. No criticism of you, Callum. This is the news cycle I'm criticizing.
No, that's fair. Well, it's because Lord of the Rings is 20 years ago now.
Oh, is it some stupid anniversary celebration? Is it?
Yeah. So there's a journalist, Drew McQueenie. He's been revealing some details on the 2-movie version of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. So he had access to a script way back when. So he's kind of sharing some sneak peeks.
As I say, it was common knowledge around here.
Yeah, well, it was common knowledge in New Zealand. I'm not sure if it was common knowledge throughout the rest of the world, because having grown up in the UK as a massive Lord of the Rings fan, I personally didn't know that it was ever planned.
Well, you weren't around when it was.
Yeah, I was going to say I
was around.
I was 1 year old.
Well, no, really?
Yeah.
Wait,
okay.
When did it come out? The first one.
Well, so I watched the first movie when I was 7, I think.
I was working on the movies 2000.
Oh yeah, I'm a 99 baby. So okay, in the womb, I was thinking that these books were definitely going to be made into 2 movies. It was not common knowledge for me.
Look, I'm sure in the pre-mortal life, Tolkien is all of age. So
yeah, for sure.
That's actually how they prep you for life, is they read you the Lord of the Rings. So it's ingrained into all of our souls.
Oh yeah.
And what I understand, from what I remember, is Peter Jackson was trying to garner support to make the films, and people were like, no, we're not making 3 films. And so he then started writing a script for 2 films to try and to make it easier to pitch to different studios. And then he got New Line on board, and they're like, no, it needs to be 3.
Oh, that's
Put it back
good.
to 3.
Yep.
I can't imagine it being anything smaller.
Yeah, no, agreed. Especially as what I consider the pinnacle of cinema. I'll read you McQueenie's quote, which has a lot bit more detail, and then we discuss that. But he has this to say: "What did the 2-movie version look like? Most of what you love about the eventual trilogy. These early drafts managed to build in most of the major incidents of the series, but without the character texture that makes the trilogy so special. It felt like watching the eventual movies on a 1.5 speed playback, everything compressed and accelerated. There were ideas in an early form. Galadriel's opening narration was originally given by Frodo, for example, and the original cliffhanger that took place after Sam, Frodo, and Gollum had an encounter with the Nazgul, so just before they reached the Dead Marshes, that's where the first movie would have ended.
Wow.
So what do you guys make of that? I mean, most people wish that they'd stuck with 2 movies for The Hobbit, of course. But do you think it could have worked as 2? Would it have been as popular?
It's hard to say because we don't know what it would be like. It could still be good and the same quality and the same, because it's the epicness of the movies has a lot of charm. But I think the characters shone through with the 3 movies, and I think that's what they're kind of getting at, is that each character has time to shine and time to develop to a certain extent, because there's quite a large cast. But yeah, so I to be honest, it could work because the action's pretty good. And to be honest, rewatching Lord of the Rings trilogy, there probably is stuff you could cut out and you'd still get the same enjoyment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like it's cool for what it is, and the 3 movies is what everybody knows and loves. But if it was originally just the 2, and it was still had Peter Jackson's flair, Widow Workshop's effects, the big fight scenes, the big important plot points, then you could still learn to love it. And if that was what we were given in the first instance, it would probably still be as successful as it is. But yeah, like you were saying, missing all of that, really getting to know the characters for what they are, their values, they get a moment to shine. Would Merry and Pippin even have been a big part of it? Probably not, right? They probably would have been left in the dust as just Frodo's little broskies.
Yeah, they would have had to stick to the main plot.
Yeah, but then they get to kind of flesh out all these characters a lot more because you've got 3 movies to work with. Also, I haven't read the books. Don't shoot me, please. But I've started listening to the audiobooks, and just hearing how much detail and love were put into all these characters and like the books themselves, it seems like a bit of an injustice to try and cram it into just those 2 movies now that with hindsight. So it was definitely the right move with the 3 movies,
for sure.
If it didn't happen, we probably would still have, as Callum says, the pinnacle of cinema, but it would just be 2 movies instead of 3.
Agreed. Well, I'm sure I speak on behalf of every rational person in the world when I say we're eternally grateful for the fact that they allowed him to push it out into 3 movies. Nat, I actually grew up listening to the BBC adaptation, the audiobooks of the Lord of the Rings, and so those are some of my favourites. So I'm not sure if that's the version that you're listening to, but I highly recommend you go and try and find that version because it's I think the dramatized version is so good. Yeah,
I think mine's like a newer one where they've got like the soundtrack and like sound bits from the movies. I don't know how they did it without getting copyrighted, but it's pretty cool. I like this version, but I will check out yours because if it drew your love for the films and for the story, then I will humor it I'll
Just
give it a listen.
for context, Ian Holm, who plays Bilbo in the movies, he voiced Frodo in the audiobooks. And this is way before the movies were greenlit or anything. So it's just a cool, like almost progression of his experience with Tolkien.
That is cool.
Yeah. Anyway, very grateful that we have the trilogy to rule all trilogies.
Sam's the true hero.
Sorry. Last time we watched it, we watched it over quarantine, the whole trilogy, my family and I, and we sat there and we counted every time that Sam saved Frodo's behind, and I was it was a tally that just ran off of a A4 sheet of paper. It was insane. I was like, sir.
He's the true hero. He's the bravest of them all.
Yeah. Bless him.
Agreed. But that's how Tolkien intended it. Mm-hmm. And with that, Charles is on 17 points, whereas Nat is on
32.
Is actually on 23. So close enough. Just flip reverse those numbers.
I think these numbers are shenanigans.
Which means that it's time for some bonus points. So these next clues will be quick fire, so they're available to both my guests. So last chance for Charles to crawl his way back to victory.
Don't do it, Charles. Just let me win. It's a feminist movement.
But me letting you win, isn't that undermining the movement?
That was a test. Congratulations.
Okay, here goes. First clue. Which rumours are shepherding in a new role for Superman?
Mass Effect.
That's Henry Cavill. That's crush number 3. Yeah. I'm in love with that man.
Yes, Henry Cavill has teased a secret project, and as a gamer himself, fans are speculating he could be playing Shepard in a Mass Effect movie adaptation.
So you got the point, because I said Mass Effect, she said Cavill.
I said Hen. You get it. You
said Mass Effect first, so you get the point.
And it's 3 games, so it's 3 points, I'm assuming?
Man, making up his own rules.
Well, it sounds like Callum's making up his own rules.
Oh, yeah. Well, we knew that.
I am the rules.
I am the law.
Okay, so for our next item, which TV series has detected the need to take a leap onto the big screen?
Luther, right?
Yes,
Elba.
Luther.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen it, but his jacket looks incredible, and I want it.
Yes, it does look rather suave. Yeah. The British TV series Luther, starring Idris Elba, has confirmed that they will produce a feature-length movie. I'm not quite sure how I feel about the leap from small to big screen in general, but, the Downton Abbey movie made money, so what do I know? And our final item this week. So let's see. So Nat, because you've got a point each there. So Nat's on 24, Charles is on 18. So let's make this spicy. And this last clue is worth 10 points.
He's just trying to do that so you can take over my number 1 spot on the leaderboard.
What?
I bet he's already messaged you the answer.
No, I don't even have a phone. What do you mean?
Here you go. So, I'm going to mute Charles.
Mute myself.
Okay, so which actor is already jumping ship before the final edits even begun?
Ship?
Yes, Nat. Yeah, Nat, you're spot on there.
Tom Holland.
Yeah.
He was hating on his own acting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I did see it because people were on Instagram and they were legitimately concerned. They're like, "Oh, don't worry, Tom. I'm sure you did great." And I'm like, "Well, if he's critiquing it, did you actually mute Charles?"
Yep.
No, but did you mute? Did you mute yourself?
No.
I was like, I can't even. I felt bad, but yes, it was Tom, yep. Buddy boy, my best friend.
How's that him jumping ship?
So following on from our discussion previously about the Uncharted movie, Tom Holland has been in the news yet again to share that he's already worried about his performance as he felt he was trying to be Mark Wahlberg all the time. And I quote, "As soon as you start worrying, do I look good in this shot? acting becomes something other than playing a character. I think there are elements of my performance in Uncharted where I kind of felt under that spell of being, I want this to be my cool moment. It was a mistake, and it's something that I will probably never do again. So that doesn't bode well, does it?
It's really not
Nah.
very reassuring that it's going to be any good if the main actor is like questioning.
Nah, he's just all up in his head, man. I don't read too much into that. He's just seeking. This guy needs to learn how to shut up because he does often say too much.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah, maybe he's just doing that humble brag thing where he's just
Yeah,
like,
it
oh,
is.
no, it's no good. Don't look at it. And then people are going to be like, well, why were you even worried? Compliments.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think he's necessarily meaning it for that, but that's what will happen.
Yeah. I mean, we've already talked previously about how we're not a massive fan of the casting anyway, or the prequel direction, but
That's another game, right? There have been quite a few game adaptations spoken about in this episode, and I
Because that's the only movies coming out now.
Yeah, I don't know any of them. I should look into it. Maybe if I just watch the movies, I won't have to play their games because
Exactly.
they'll be just the same, right?
well, the main problem is that most of these games are basically movies, just in a in a game format. So it's like, what's the point in even adapting them? We've already played the movie, you know.
Yeah, you just turn the game on to easy, and it's basically the movie.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's because it's instant money for these studios because they know
There's the audience there.
Yeah.
And
it's they are getting better. This game to movie adaptations are getting better in general. Like the trend is up. There is the odd stinker. But it's just easy money because people know, like, oh, it's going to be bad, but I'm going to have to see it because I love Uncharted. And so people will still see it. Like they'll pull in Napoleon Dynamite and go, gosh, I just have to see it. And they will, and it'll make money, and so they'll keep doing it. And I'm kind of getting tired of it. It's just too many.
Yeah, agreed. Well, that's it.
New IP. That's what we want.
Agreed. Well, that's it for today. And final scores on the door. So Charles made a valiant effort with 18, but it's Nat who snatched victory today for the. Yes, there's a victory chicken for the betterment and for the empowering of females everywhere. She snatched victory today with 34 points.
Thank you.
Which means that she will take the top spot on the leaderboard.
That seems very engineered.
I've only been on here like twice, mate. How many episodes have you been on, Charles? Oh, she's talking mad smack now.
So, yes, congratulations, Nat. You've won yourself a true feeling of achievement for at least the next week.
I'm pat myself.
So, Nat and Charles, was this a good week for the movie business? Do you reckon the news of this past week deserves the official seal of approval?
Yep. I liked it.
It was real bad, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. I had a lot of fun. So I think it's there's a lot of, and kind of as the news is at the moment, it's a lot of forward planning, as it were, because less productions are happening. But I'm excited about a bunch of them.
Talking about it.
Quite. So for our audience out there, what was your news highlight of the week? Did we cover it? Did you agree with anything we had to say at all? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or whatever platform you're listening to. It would really help us out. Well, thanks for joining me today, Nat and Charles, as well as everyone at home, and we'll see all you next time.
All of a sudden, everybody turns into Hitler. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. Should I not say that? Are you going to keep that in? You shouldn't keep that in. That's a bit offensive. I'm not going to say it.